Did you know that while Tesla just reported its largest sales drop in company history, losing nearly 60,000 cars compared to last year, China achieved something unprecedented. Over half of all cars sold there are now electric. This isn't just a story about different markets. It's about how America, the birthplace of the modern EV revolution, is watching its electric future slip away, not because of technology failures or consumer rejection, but due to forces that most people never see coming. The numbers tell a story that should alarm every American who cares about technological leadership. In the second quarter of 2025, Tesla's sales plunged 13.5% year over year, marking the company's worst performance in its history. But here's what makes this even more significant. This isn't happening because Americans don't want electric vehicles. According to Cox Automotive, EV inventory has swelled to over 92 days of supply, nearly double the industry average. These cars aren't selling not because there's no demand, but because of systematic dysfunction in how they're being sold. While China celebrates electric vehicles representing 53% of their total car market, American dealerships are sitting on massive inventories they cannot move. The reason reveals the first shocking truth about America's EV slowdown. Dealers are systematically sabotaging their own sales through predatory pricing practices. Investigations show that dealers routinely add market adjustments of $3,000 to $10,000 above manufacturer prices on popular EV models. This isn't market dynamics, it's manipulation that has priced out the middle-class buyers who were supposed to drive mainstream adoption. But the dealer problem runs deeper than simple greed. A 2019 mystery shopping survey found significant gaps in dealership expertise, with sales staff lacking basic knowledge about battery technology, charging infrastructure, and total cost of ownership. Many dealers have chosen to exploit supply constraints for short-term profit maximization, rather than investing in customer education and transparent pricing. This has created what industry experts call a field of dreams failure. Automakers built the EVs, but dealers failed to create the conditions for buyers to come. The second major factor destroying America's EV momentum is something that affects every potential buyer but gets little attention: catastrophic depreciation rates. New research reveals that many electric vehicles lose up to 50% of their value within the first year. A Tesla Model 3, despite being the most common used EV, depreciates by 58% over 3 years. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. When consumers discover that their neighbor's one-year-old EV is worth half what they paid, it creates a crisis of confidence that extends far beyond individual buyers. This depreciation disaster is compounded by rapid technological advancement that makes older models quickly obsolete, while government incentives that apply only to new vehicles further depress used EV values. The result is a vicious cycle where potential buyers witness the financial devastation and decide to wait or avoid EVs altogether. However, the most overlooked aspect of America's EV situation reveals something unexpected. Americans haven't rejected electric vehicles, they've fundamentally changed how they access them. By 2024, nearly half of all new EV purchases were leasings, more than doubling from 2023 levels. This represents rational consumer behavior in response to rapid depreciation, technological uncertainty, and policy instability. TransUnion research shows EV leasing volumes increased from 539,000 to 714,000 between the first quarters of 2023 and 2024. This shift to leasing makes economic sense when average EV prices exceed $57,000, a 19% premium over all vehicles. The federal tax credit structure actually incentivizes leasing, as all leased EVs qualify for the full $7,500 credit regardless of manufacturing location or price restrictions that limit purchase credits. But this creates a statistical illusion of slowdown that masks actual EV adoption. The political dimension adds another layer of complexity that most Americans don't fully grasp. The election of Donald Trump in 2024 introduced unprecedented policy uncertainty into the EV market. The announcement that federal EV tax credits would end after September 30, 2025, created what economists call a policy cliff.
Investment bank UBS cut its 2030 EV market share prediction from 32% to just 24%, while Bloomberg NEF reduced its forecast from 48% to 27%. These aren't minor adjustments. They represent a fundamental reassessment of America's electric future based on policy uncertainty alone. The global context makes America's struggles even striking. While the United States debates policy support, China dominates the global EV market, with over half of vehicles sold there now electric. Chinese manufacturers like BYD have not only surpassed Tesla in global sales, but are revolutionizing the technology itself.
BYD recently announced battery charging technology that adds 250 miles of range in 5 minutes, outpacing Tesla's superchargers that take 15 minutes to add 200 miles. This technological competition occurs against a backdrop of escalating trade tensions. Chinese EVs now face tariffs as high as 247.5% when imported to the United States, while Europe has implemented more measured tariffs, ranging from 7% for Tesla to 36% for certain Chinese manufacturers. The irony is stark. Global EV production capacity far exceeds current demand, but American consumers face higher prices and limited choices due to geopolitical constraints. The infrastructure challenge adds another dimension that contradicts conventional wisdom. Despite over $7.5 billion allocated through the bipartisan infrastructure law for charging networks, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Research shows that charge point unreliability has increased 50% from 2021 to 2023, with more than 1 in 5 charging attempts failing. Harvard research analyzing over 1 million charging reviews found that EV drivers regularly encounter broken equipment, making charging unreliable at best. The problem isn't just quantity, it's quality and reliability. A typical 350-kilowatt fast charger costs $150,000 to install, plus expensive grid upgrades and permitting processes that can take months or years. Many charging networks struggle with profitability, leading to deferred maintenance and poor service quality that undermines consumer confidence in EV ownership. The financing landscape reveals another unexpected factor constraining growth. While Federal Reserve research shows EV borrowers default 29% less than conventional vehicle borrowers, saving lenders an estimated $1,457 per loan, these lower credit risks haven't translated into proportionally lower interest rates for consumers. Higher interest rates disproportionately affect EV buyers due to their higher average purchase prices, while rapid depreciation has made banks reluctant to finance loans where borrowers might quickly become underwater. Perhaps most significantly, America's EV market is experiencing what researchers call early adopter exhaustion. The initial wave of EV buyers consisted of environmentally conscious, affluent consumers willing to accept higher costs and inconveniences. However, this segment has been largely saturated. Current EV owners show 94% satisfaction rates and would consider another EV for their next vehicle. The problem isn't retention, it's expansion beyond this initial group.
Mainstream consumers have different priorities, risk tolerances, and decision-making criteria than early adopters. The transition requires overcoming both functional barriers, practical concerns about usage, value, and risk, and psychological barriers related to tradition and image. AAA's 2025 survey found that only 16% of U.S. adults are very likely or likely to purchase an EV as their next car, the lowest percentage since 2019. Looking ahead, the challenge for America becomes clear. China is projected to make nearly a third of the world's cars by 2030, with their domestic market reaching 60% EV penetration. Chinese manufacturers are expanding globally, while American automakers struggle with policy uncertainty and market dysfunction at home. The question isn't whether electric vehicles represent the future of transportation, they clearly do. The question is whether America will lead that future or find itself increasingly dependent on others for the technology that powers it. The data suggests a critical moment. Global EV sales hit 9.1 million in the first half of 2025, growing 28% year over year. China led with 5.5 million sales, up 32%. Europe followed with 2 million sales, up 26%. North America managed just 900,000 sales, growing only 3%. While other regions accelerate their electric transitions, America's EV market faces headwinds that extend far beyond typical market dynamics. The convergence of dealer dysfunction, policy uncertainty, infrastructure reliability issues, and geopolitical tensions has created a perfect storm that threatens America's position in the global EV landscape. Success will require addressing these systemic issues rather than simply building more charging stations or introducing new models. The path forward demands reforming dealer practices, stabilizing depreciation through better residual value management, creating policy certainty, and rebuilding consumer confidence in the electric vehicle value proposition. America's EV future remains promising, but realizing that potential requires acknowledging the complex reality behind the current slowdown. The next few years will determine whether the United States maintains its technological leadership or becomes a secondary player in the industry it helped create. The choice and the time to make it may be running out faster than most Americans realize.